All right, we're back here for another episode of Bloodbath.tactics. This one's a special episode. It's my dear friends Mark Minis. We are going to be talking about all things competitive Warhammer as usual. This one is not going to be a faction focus. We're going to be talking more about our experience with Pariah Nexus, or our, if we haven't got any games, kind of like where we're going to be going with it, or what are our thoughts on it. The guest right now, as I said before, is Mark Minis. He actually recently just 5-0'd a tournament, team tournament in Trident with Chaos Space Marines. He's also an amazing painter who just donated a Star Wars themed orc army, and it looks freaking gorgeous. And we'll have links to that and photos of it in our description. But we're going to get more into that later. Right now, I think first we're going to talk about his armies and my armies and our experience with Pariah Nexus right now. He plays Chaos Space Marines and Custodes. And I'm going to talk about my experience with Sisters and Death Guard. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing great, Cass. Thanks for having me here.
There you are. Oh, hey, no problem, man. Thanks for coming. Yeah. It's been kind of a long time coming. We wanted to do this, and life gets in the way, and we really need to showcase, because you're just now, you're always like an amazing player, but now you're really getting into the competitive scene. Yeah. You're really digging your teeth into it. You want to tell me about that?
Well, I started playing 40K last year in an escalation league here in Calgary, and just learned the ins and outs of the game. And you were my very first opponent in that league.
Oh, yeah, I was. Yeah.
Learned a lot from you and through the games and experience of that league. I ended up taking top spot in the league for the first half of 2023, and then I played again in the league for a second run and ended up tying for first. Won both of the league tournaments, and after chatting with you and a few other guys from Bloodbath and beyond, I was like, yeah, you know what, let's try some competitive 40K. And so kind of put my hat in the ring and signed up for this Trident team tournament, and it worked out really well.
5-0. That's not an easy thing to do, especially in teams when you consider attacker, defender. People can play against you, and then say you're 3-0 in the tournament, and everyone knows what your army's kind of doing right now, and then you're going to be in your harder matches round 4 and 5. They're going to pin up the people that were going to try to stop you from scoring points.
Yeah. So
the fact that you kept on scoring after they were pinning up people to slow you down and stop you is an amazing feat.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Cass. It was definitely a huge learning experience for me. I made my list and submitted it, and we did have a little bit of drama in the tournament where I took some Nurglings, and one of my teammates was Demon Player. And so we had to talk to the TO over the tournament, and he apologized for kind of missing some of this stuff before the tournament. But everyone that we played against was, a gentleman, and they were like, yeah, no problem. Like, you can take the Nurglings out. That's 80 points. You put in a set of Legionaries. And so my last 2 games of the tournament, I had to actually play with a different list than I was expecting.
Okay.
But again, it still turned out well, and I learned heaps from playing my first competitive scene with the boys.
Yeah, and just so the viewers know too, this was prior to Pariah Nexus.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a tongue twister. I made it. I did it. Yeah. So this was in Leviathan, but now we're in the Pariah Nexus, and there's obviously some point changes happened with Chaos Space Marines.
Yep.
They do have. Well, you weren't playing the new Codex then too.
No,
right?
I was playing pre-Codex changes. And
the Codex was out though, kind of.
Yeah, the Codex was just released. However, due to the timing of the tournament, they were keeping the old rules, and then literally that was the last weekend where you'd play the old Chaos Space Marine rules, and then the new Codex rules came out with the points drops and everything. So
right,
I haven't played a competitive tournament with Chaos Space Marine since the Codex, but I do think it has some playability for sure.
Have you had any matches with Pariah Nexus at all, or with the new point systems, or how are you feeling?
I haven't played any matches with Pariah Nexus yet, and I'm playing in another competitive teams tournament next weekend here in Calgary. But I've been kind of taking a look at the mission cards and secondaries, and I don't feel like there's too much of a drastic change. I actually think it is almost more friendly, whereas some of the mission cards is like, if you cannot score this or you don't have the units, then you can discard it and pull a free secondary. And I'm like, hey, you know what, that saves me spending CP or just holding on to it to discard it. Like, there's some friendly aspects to Pariah Nexus, but again, I still got a bit of learning before next weekend.
Sure. And you know what? Like it has some neat ones too. Like there's no capture enemy outpost, so you never draw on that first turn. There's also ones where if you don't have, like, say, bring it down. If there's no vehicles, you can actually discard it.
Exactly.
Behind enemy lines, round 1, you can discard it.
Yep.
And then
is it discard or reshuffle?
It's reshuffle.
Yeah,
it's reshuffle. But what I found in the Pariah Nexus with secondary scoring is it is easier to do, like you said, but the points are lower.
Yeah.
So before it was kind of like 3 to 5 you'd score, but now it's 2 to 4. But you know, shavings make a pile. So as the game goes on, those little 1-2 points that you're losing, it adds up quite a bit to, like, the games are getting really, really, really close. So in a team environment, I am curious to see how that's going to work. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to 20-0 somebody. You're going to get like a lot of those closer games, but I mean, obviously it's still possible.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think I just recently had a match with Pariah Nexus, and I was playing my sisters. I wasn't playing a meta list. I was playing Army of Faith, which is the one where you can use 2 miracle dice on a unit, and they have a lot of really, really strong stratagems, but they're kind of gamey. Like they can give uppy downy to a dude, they can ignore mods, they can give feel no pains to everybody around them. Anyway, but it's a very, very tricky kind of list. It's a very MSU, I'm just going to be here to score, and if you want, you have to try to stop me.
Yeah. And
I'm just throwing like little shit trash units at you that you have to waste resources.
You have to deal with.
So anyways, so to further my point, I was playing that in the Pariah Nexus match, and the scoring was good. I did end up by the end of it though getting, like, I think 21 point differential on him. So what would that be, like 15-5?
I think that's 15-5.
15-5. So it is possible to 20, because that is getting close, but it is a lot more difficult because there's some cool new ones like containment where you have to do an action outside of 9 inches outside of your deployment zone. And if you do it twice, it's 6.
That's right, 6 points.
Yeah, so that's really good on turn 1 because you can kind of spread out pincer and do it. But sometimes you can't. And then I almost could, but I was going against Admech, and he battle shocked my whole army turn 1, so I couldn't. The only one that could do it was my infiltrators. So I actually was able to score 3 points. But so that's what's interesting I find about Pariah Nexus is that the scoring is a lot tighter, and I think every point matters even more so now. There's a primary mission called or mission rules, raise banners.
Yeah.
And you get extra points on your secondary for battle lines doing the action on an objective. So you can score an extra, 3-4 points. That could be a game changer.
Yeah, well, I think with that one as well, it is 1 point per objective you do an action on, and you get to do it once per game for each objective. So it's a total of 5 extra points. But again, like you're saying with this new Pariah Nexus,
I think 5 is stretching it though. I think 3 is kind of where
for sure. Like you got to be really elite and know how to run the board.
He's already 20-0'd by that point.
Exactly. Exactly. But all those little points add up, like you were saying, and I'm interested to play Pariah Nexus and sink my teeth into it and see where that new meta is and get good.
So you're going in for so you have a tournament next weekend.
Yep.
I know by the time we're filming this, lists aren't being submitted. So I don't know if you want to go too in depth with that or what you're thinking. Maybe some thoughts on, because I know you're thinking about Custodes.
Yeah. So I was thinking of Chaos, but with the new points releases, I don't think Chaos is going to play as well as Custodes. And with the points changes for Custodes and some of the rules changes, Custodes are looking super strong. And looking at some of the online kind of YouTube videos like Bloodbath.tactics, the Custodes are sitting pretty nice at like a 51% win rate, and I think Chaos is down to 47. But regardless, like there's a lot of attention when the Codex came out that Warp Talons were going to be the new thing, and their points got jacked up huge. And actually looking into the rules, I don't think that they're as strong as what people think.
No, because there was that big confusion with Warp Talons. I know what it is, but for our viewers, do you want to kind of dive deep into that a little bit? Because I mean, on paper, I remember we did the Chaos Space Marines focus, and I was even confused about this too. And we had a little faction expert, Brandon, on there, and we were all like, "This is so crazy," how good these guys are. Like, how many do you run? Do you spam them? No, but you probably need them in every list. So do you want to describe what that rule was and what the confusion was for our viewers?
So from what I believe, it was that if Warp Talons were not in engagement with an enemy unit, that they could get pulled back up into reserves or deep strike at the end of your turn. However, from what I've read, the rule was that if Warp Talons were in engagement with an enemy unit and they were eligible to fight that turn but did not, then they were allowed to go back up into reserves. So previously when the Codex came out, everyone was like, hey, you know what? I can rapid ingress a squad of Warp Talons, or I could deep strike them, and if I don't make my 9-inch charge, I can just pull them back up into reserves, which is not the case. They had to have been eligible to fight that turn, so they had to have been in engagement range. So I recently played in an Escalation League 2v2 tournament where we were playing meme lists. My buddy and I, we ran Chaos Knights and Dread Talon, where I was playing Dread Talon, so I could give -1 shenanigans to
They're like the Night Lords.
Yeah, the Night Lords, and that's kind of where my heart is. We can chat about that later. But when I was playing it, I'm like, oh crap, like this isn't nearly as good as I thought it was, and you had to have gotten them into engagement range and made sure that they were eligible to fight that turn. So I had charged a squad of Warp Talons with a giant Chaos Knight into a bunch of Wraiths and some Raptors, and because we killed the unit with the Technomancer and the Wraiths, the Warp Talons were eligible to actually go back into Deep Strike because they could have been selected to fight that turn. However, if with the Renegade Raiders detachment where you can spend a CP to pull them back, you can't do that now with the rules changes. I think that's the only instance where you could actually have had them in combat and pull them and have them go back up.
And they'd have to have survived that combat too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is likely.
Yeah, exactly. But their points have been increased. I think for a squad of 10, they were 220 points. Now I think they're about 270 or 280. And it's, in my eyes, that's 100% not worth the points.
What about like more of a MSU style, like a 5-mans? Like, do you want to run any of those, or?
Again, with those points values, I find it hard to want to run them because, again, depending on what detachment you're playing, like Raptors can be just as good and cost way less points.
Okay, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So
I guess that's true.
And I can attach a jump pack captain to them with enhancements, and with the new rules change where you get the -1 CP to your stratagems, it's like, hey, you know what? I've got a 6-man group of Raptors with a captain using a power fist where I can do tons of different shenanigans because I have that -1 CP to my strats, where that seems far more powerful than the Warp Talons, because with the Warp Talons, now they have to have killed something in engagement range or in the fight phase in order to be eligible to go into Deep Strike, which for me is it's way too much points for the value.
Yeah, you're not really going to be trading up too much. And one thing I found too with Pariah Nexus as well, it is very CP heavy, just because you can do new orders every turn now. You might want that CP here and there. So having like a jump pad captain, which gives you -1, is a CP gen in itself, and then maybe having a CP gen somewhere else, like Abaddon or whatever it is, in a list, I think is pretty key to victory, because that is a resource that is it changes the game. Like it bends the game. Like when an army's good, it's because the stratagems are good.
Well, 100%. Like with that rules change, I think one of the strongest attachments for Chaos is actually Veterans of the Long War, because their stratagems are so strong, and you could have -1 to every single one of those. So if somebody charges you, all of a sudden you have an Abaddon unit with a bunch of Chosen that can have fights first for 1 CP.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's
CP,
pretty good.
Yeah,
that makes them unchargeable.
Yeah, because the fights first stratagem is 2 CP, and unlike the Custodes previously, they had to have been on an objective. Well, now they don't have to be on an objective. You could target any unit anywhere on the board for 2 CP, and they get fights first. But all of a sudden, it's -1 because of that shield captain. or Shield Captain, the Chaos Lord.
Which allows you to be quite reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. So, I mean, that's Chaos Space Marines, but we're not playing Chaos Space Marines in the next tournament. So, what makes Custodians good again?
I think the big thing is the -1 CP changes and to the Shield Captain, as well as points changes. So, one unit that I've had my eye on for ages, and I've talked to other guys about it, Jake, who was previously on your podcast talking about Custodes, and my discussions with Jake were on using Custodian Guard with Pyrite Spears, so a bunch of spears that shoot Melta. And they were 300 points for 5. And I was thinking, man, if I attach a Blade Champion to them and deep strike them within 9, I can shoot 5 Pyrite Spears and get lethal hits on them. And then I can roll to charge and re-roll charges for free with that Blade Champion.
Okay, yeah, because Shield Captain would give you both lethal and sustained, right?
If in the fight phase,
not
in shooting.
Got it.
But if I put that Blade Champion in, I could potentially make that 9-inch charge. And then there was enhancements and strats.
I'll tell you, as a Sisters player, doing lethal Meltas is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's great.
And because they're guard, they get a re-roll wound rolls of 1. Or if they're on an objective, they get a re-roll all wound rolls. So 5 Melta shots, re-rolling all wounds if you're deep striking onto an objective 9 inches away would be nasty with re-rolls to charges. And with some of the strats now or the enhancements, there was an enhancement for a blade or prior to the codex where you could fall back, shoot, and charge. And now there's an enhancement, I believe it's in Shield Hosts for 1 CP, where you can fall back, shoot, and charge. So if I get 5 Custodian Guard with Melta Spears, take 5 shots, charge in, fall back, shoot again, charge, that seems pretty awesome. But for the amount of points, it wasn't worth it. But they dropped 50 points now.
So 250.
So they're 250, and I think a regular 5-man guard unit is about 225.
Oh, cool. So, and with that too, I think it's really good counter to elite armies as well. There's a lot of elite here, especially in Calgary, I find. Someone was actually just telling me, oh, you should run 30 Blight Lords, Terminators, spam it. Yep. And that's 930 points or something like that, which is okay, maybe. But if you did that and had a bunch of warriors with Pirate Spears,
yep,
they're gone.
Yep.
I know it relies on a 4-up invul, but yeah, I think you're doing a lot more power, and there is the reason why Sisters are not to say dominant, but so good is that more invul unit. Rerolling all the multi-melter shots is killing anything. So having that ability to do that, I'll tell you right now, is great, because you can just shoot one, shoot again on another one, charge another thing, and then that's 3 dead units.
Yep.
And the game's swung by then.
Well, and with the Shield Host detachment, I think that's the most played detachment right now for Custodes. But they have 2 army rules, and you get to pick one. So if I'm in melee, I get crits on 5s. And so having Martial Katas, I could go in, and depending on if I'm fighting something with comparable toughness to my strength, so the spears would typically be strength 7, and if I'm hitting somebody toughness 7 or less, I'm going to be taking sustained hits. So each guy gets 5 attacks, so that's 25 attacks plus your Blade Champion, whatever profile you take. I could have 30 plus attacks hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, 2s, 3s, or 4s with sustained hits. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it's awesome.
No, it's great. It kind of reminds me, and I know I keep bringing it back to my own army, but I've been digging the Penitent Host attachment for Sisters.
Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite just because of the lore behind it, but I think there's a list somewhere. I don't know how competitive play it is, but it's somewhere. But the Repentia, so you've gone against my Repentia before.
Yeah.
But now I can go into a 10-man unit, and there's a certain vow, which is kind of like your doctrines, that gives +1 attack, +1 strength. So then I'm hitting with 27 attacks, because it's 9 times 3.
Yeah.
So 27 attacks, strength 7, AP -2, 2 damage, so even better than a Custodian attack.
Wow.
Rerolling hits and wounds with sustain 1.
Whew. Nasty.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
At 180 points.
That's wild.
Right? But they're glass. You can... Your Wardens were just bam. They'll see them, they'll be dead.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that. But that kind of reminds me, so your combo there is it's almost comparable.
Yeah.
Like I would say it's better because I mean obviously the guys are better, like they can shoot and do that. Where they're just charging, maybe grenading. That's about it, right? So, but the power is there.
Yeah.
And to have that kind of elite power and have an elite unit that survives is pretty huge.
There's for the Custodies, something else that I'm going to be rolling in the tournament is a group of regular Custodian Guard, another battle line, but run them with a shield captain. And now with shield captains, when you're picking their loadout, you can take the pyrite spear with shield, so they get an extra wound, and the melted spear, but it costs no extra points from a regular shield captain. So I'm like, hey, you know what, more wounds, same kind of defensive profile, 2 up, 4 up, and you get a melted spear. And if you put them with the guard have that once per game ability where they get to shoot twice, and they get reroll wounds of 1 and reroll wounds on an objective. And you put them in with that shield captain and get the -1 CP strat, and you can have the once per game. They get both stances for martial katas. So again, there's some cool combos I feel like you can get with Custodies.
Do you think that Knights were always a kind of a weird matchup for you?
You know what? All the Knights games I've played with Custodies, I've thoroughly kind of decimated them. And I think it's because a lot of the times when I see Custodies players, they just go balls to the wall and just charge right in. I try to play a bit more cagey, hide what I have until I know I'm going to make that charge. And as soon as I make that charge, that Knight's toast. Like, not many things in the game can survive a Custodies melee force at full capacity.
Arcoflagellants.
Yeah.
Yeah. But not anymore. No, totally. And because you're wounding on 5s though, right? A lot of the time?
Yep, wounding on 5s, but again, now, like, that was previous to the Codex, but with the Codex changes, if I'm taking, again, Shield Hosts, I'm going to take lethal hits.
Right.
Or if I'm going with the Shield Captain, I'll take both.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, with the Shield Captain, that's going to be 32 attacks.
It's enough.
On 5s and 6s, taking lethal hits. Or if I'm doing, you know, both stances, I'm probably going to be translating to, like, I don't know, 12 wounds.
Yeah, it's enough.
Yeah, with -2 AP.
So they're saving on 5s. Yeah. No, that's enough, right?
Yeah.
Unless they do like, I think they have a strat for 4-up invo. I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not a Knights player.
Yeah.
Yet.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
So a little bit of segue here too. Just for everyone who's seeing that we're all in cowboy hats and dressed up in Western, it's not weird. We are both here from Calgary, Alberta, and right now in Calgary, there's 10 days of a festival called the Calgary Stampede. It's known as the greatest outdoor show on earth, and everyone in the city is all in cowboy gear. It's a bunch of I don't know, parties around. There's a bunch of shows. The biggest artists come down to Calgary for this. So in the spirit of Calgarians, we always get dressed up for it. And, you know, we all have cowboy boots and cowboy hats, so the stereotype is there. That's what we do. And for 10 days, we wear this. Yep. So if you are confused, we're doing a Stampede Edition podcast. And we're wearing cowboy hats because we're Calgarians. So I just wanted to get that out there, not to get you guys so confused. But let's keep going with Warhammer here. We got another thing I want to talk about as well. Is the army that you made. We recently, you and I, as proper grammar, went to a tournament with Play on Tabletop.
Yep.
They host a narrative event, which is really, really fun. It's not really about winning. It's more about the narrative, having fun, creating a story with and meeting new people, creating a story on the table and meeting new people. You know, that is not the tournament where we met, but it's where we met, you know, some of our other friends and stuff like that. And we're kind of like the OGs. We went to the first tournament. Now we got to the second tournament, and it was a lot of fun. We were on opposite teams. We both ended up losing to the invaders that came out of nowhere, which is fine. But you did win Best Army, or voted for Best Army. Just so the viewers know too, Mark is an incredible painter. If you want to see his Instagram, it's Mark Minis. He posts all the time. He shows what his next project is or whatever. And it is good stuff. Very similar style. I really like his style, so I've been kind of adopting a lot of my stuff to it, like the Grimdark. And the army that he won with and he went with is an orc army. This is going to be the index army, though, for the way you built it. Yep. But you 3D printed a bunch of stuff, and you made it into a theme where it's Star Wars. So it has the orc boys, the stormtroopers. You had what else do you have?
Let's see. The original idea for the army came thinking, you know what, orcs would be pretty fun. You can pretty much make them into anything. What should I do? And exactly what you're saying. When I was thinking of the army, I was like, well, orcs are terrible at shooting. What else is terrible at shooting? I was like, stormtroopers. Yeah, let's look at making these guys into Star Wars themes. So I got 40 boys that are all different variations of stormtroopers. I used Marine Boy models from Mezgeik. He's a good buddy of mine from Australia who does lots of 3D modeling and design. So I use his Marine Boys. And then Mr. Modulork, he does other 3D designs online. He made some actual specific Stormtrooper orcs. So I bought his files and then printed the heads to fit Mezgeik's Marine Boys. And then I used a Pain Boy, just a regular Pain Boy from Mezgeik. And then usually they have a Grot Orderly with them. And so instead of having a Grot, I 3D printed a interrogation droid, which, you know, is from episode 4 that interrogated Leia.
Yeah.
I had a war boss that was Darth Vader. I used a weird boy, and it was Emperor Palpatine. I had a battle wagon, and the battle wagon was an AT-AT. And that was a model from Mr. Modulork, and a good buddy of mine, Jameson Dundas. He's a whiz with electronics and he knows more about 3D modeling and design. So he actually wired up the model so that it had a speaker on the inside with a little button. So when you reach inside kind of the shooting deck, there's a button, and when you press it, it actually makes the AT-AT sound for walking and laser fire. I had a shock jump dragsta, and I made that from a snowspeeder model from Mr. Modulork as well, and painted the pilot and the gunner as Maverick and Goose from Top Gun. What else did I have? I had a tack squig that was like Diangoba, the trash compactor monster.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the centerpiece for the army was the Stompa. And the Stompa was a custom model that Jameson and I worked on that was a blend of an actual Stompa and a Rancor. And Jameson did all the 3D modeling and design and wired it up so it had a TV speaker on the inside as well as LEDs. It has like a little hazard light hat that shines and lights up. It's got a laser blast and a laser eye that lights up. And it's remote control, so we created a little Orky control that when you turn it on, you press a button and it makes the Rancor roar, the actual roar from Return of the Jedi. And yeah, it looks awesome. It was fun to build, paint.
You missed one guy.
Yes. My Gazgul Thraka was the Mandalorian. So we took a regular Gazgul 3D model and Jameson planted him on top of a Tauntaun. And then I was like, hey, can we get a cut in the belly with a little grot head poking out? And so that's exactly what he did. We have a little grot head poking out of the bottom of the Tauntaun. And then Gazgul has a Mandalorian helmet. I painted it to kind of be the Mandalorian colors and more of a grimdark style. Mm-hmm. So it's the Mandalorian with Grogu Grot kind of hanging out of the Tauntaun stomach.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, it's kind of, we're going past Return of the Jedi a little bit, which is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Only a couple of years.
Yeah, just a few years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun.
All right, well, let's get into it now. So what inspired you to do this, and what was your main goal when you started this project?
So, I think it started back last year after the Play on Tabletop narrative at GamesCon. I started painting and playing Warhammer. I started playing last year, but I was painting a bunch of Night Lords. That's my first army. And after the GamesCon narrative, I was like, you know what, that was a ton of fun. A lot of people really enjoy seeing kind of themed armies. Maybe I'll do something like that. But if I'm doing that, I want to make it for charity and make it worthwhile. And in my life, there's been a lot of hardship in my family. My mother has kind of end-stage Alzheimer's dementia. My sisters have both suffered from cancer, breast cancer, lymphatic cancer. My mother-in-law, lymphatic cancer as well. And these are all really important women in my life. And so I was thinking that this project would be a way for me to honor them and to try to give back. And so I started it probably November, December of last year, kind of getting all the ideas together, buying all the 3D files, working with Jameson on what the vision looked like, and started getting to it, printing and building and painting. And collectively, I think it's been well over 1,000 hours of time and effort to get this project off the ground. And
it's crazy.
Yeah, I've taken time off work, where for a while I was working 3 days a week, so that Tuesdays and Thursdays were dedicated to building this army and getting it to the point that we've wanted to get it to. And it's done now. It's all done. It looks fantastic. I'm excited, and we'll be raffling it off to charity, to those 3 charities, to Alzheimer's dementia, lymphatic cancer, and breast cancer later this year through Nova Open Charity Foundation.
Cool. And we can get that link and put it in the description too for us, right? Awesome. So if you guys do want to, maybe you always wanted to get into orcs, or you want to get into 40K and the painting's daunting, or the modeling's daunting, or you always just like to play just because it's a cool narrative. Here's your chance. I mean, and you can buy a ticket to this army and you could win this army. And it's all going to a good cause. So all proceeds are going to these 3 charities through Nova Charity. So not only are you helping others, but you can express your hobby and get into the hobby that way too. I know it can be a daunting task. I know 40K is an expensive hobby.
Yep.
But you can get into this and you can have this really, really cool army. I know a few of our teammates too I think they're going to be donating to the point where like they just want this army. They're going to keep throwing in tickets and tickets and tickets and tickets, and we'll see. And we'll have a link to this, but do you also want to talk about we can cut this out too. Do you want to talk about Play On at all, or?
Sure.
So another thing too, if you do want to see this army, if you didn't see us at GameCon, you want to see it live, he is going to be on Play On Tabletop. We all know this as a lot of us competitive players or just Warhammer people. They're one of the top channels in the world for Warhammer, and he's going to be on there in their studio doing a battle report with this orc army. Yep. Are you excited?
Oh man, beyond excited. Like, again, part of the vision with this project is to get it out to as many people as possible and raise as much funds as possible. And as a goal, like I've already sunk well over $1,000 into making this army happen. And so the goal is kind of to see if I can raise at least $3,000 in raffle money for charity. And so partway through making it, I was like, how could I reach more people? And having already met Nick and JT and a bunch of the guys from Play On last year at the narrative, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll just reach out and see what they say and if they're willing to help. And I was able to talk to Nick personally over Discord, and he is such a gentleman and a scholar. Like, that guy, as soon as I told him about the project and showed him some of the models that we were making, he was like, I love it, I love the idea, and how can we help? And so we kind of brainstormed, and it looks like again, heading out, going on the channel, doing a army showcase so that people can see the models, and the time and effort that's gone into it. Maybe I'll bring the display board out as well and show the Sarlacc pit.
You got to, yeah.
But and then probably doing a 40K in 40 minutes, and then I have no idea what else is in store. We'll kind of see where the road takes us, but yeah, Nick and the guys, they're fantastic. They absolutely love the army. While I was playing it at their narrative tournament, and again, it gained a lot of attention, but I think this will take it to another level and hopefully get more and more people looking out for that raffle by the end of the year.
And now, all right, I know you're doing all this for charity, but really, what's the main goal here?
The main goal? So, the main goal is definitely
play on, yeah.
Well, the main goal is definitely raising money for charity.
Yeah.
But as consolation, I'd absolutely love to win me some victory dice.
I'd love
to win some victory dice.
And maybe a victory shirt too, right?
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
But
but of course, the main goal, that's all for fun.
But you know what? I've already won myself one victory die from the narrative tournament for favorite army, and that it's more than worth it. So hopefully, again, I can honor those family members and try to make life a little easier for other people suffering from these diseases.
It's an amazing thing you've done. I mean, it's completely generous, and you're using your skills and talents to help, right? And I think that if there's more people out there like that, I think we'd all be, it takes a village, so we'd all be okay. So thank you for doing that and like putting the time and effort for this, because not many people say they can, or they don't have time, or they're too busy, or whatever it is. And you've taken your time and your money to do this project. Thank you.
Hey, you know what,
it's
man?
It's an amazing thing.
I appreciate that. And, this is an amazing community that I've just kind of stumbled across over the last couple of years. And if anything, like you were saying, people say they don't have the time and the means of doing it. But I think if you really want to do it and make it happen, you brainstorm and chat with people, you can find a way to give back. And for me, like, that's something I've really come to realize over the last few years, going through COVID and seeing everyone with their struggles that they're going through. Like, everyone's hurting in some way, and we can always find some way within our power to give back. And I wanted to make it a priority this year. Again, it's hard to be there for the people we love when we're suffering as well, but my family was worth it, and a lot of other people out there are worth it. And so I made it a priority, and this is where it's kind of taken me. I'm excited for what's going to happen, and I'm excited to see who gets it, and that they love this army as much as I do, because after putting this amount of time and effort into it,
you love it.
I love it. Like, it's definitely a crown jewel in my secret gaming cave, but it will feel even better seeing it go somewhere and seeing how it can possibly change other people's lives.
Absolutely. And I think it will, I know it will.
Yeah.
Right. It's such a beautiful piece, and it's going to such a good cause. I can't say more about it. I just, I was on a podcast last week, and they asked me what the coolest thing, and I went on for like a 20-minute tangent about this army. I just think it's the coolest thing and what you've done. So, and so if all your viewers, when's the auction? In November?
So not 100% sure. Filming for Play On will be taking place in August, and then they have to do their magic in the studio and editing, and that will probably take weeks, if not a month. My guess is the episode will probably air sometime in September, and then I would like a bit of time for people to kind of view it and see it and getting some traction. So maybe October, November. Nova Open Charity Foundation is fantastic, easy to work with. They're willing to have the date of the raffle whenever I would like. So it'll definitely be before the end of the year, but my guess is kind of late October, early November-ish.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. So anyone who wants to, get a chance to give back and donate and a chance to win this stuff, just, we're going to be posting lots with Bloodbath.tactics. I work, me and Mark, we're pretty close. So I'll make sure this is out there and make sure people know when to go, and just keep it tuned with us, keep it tuned with Play On. All of those things it'll be out there. And then please follow Mark Minis on Instagram as well. So he'll be letting you know when the auction is going on. That way you can get your chance to at least try to win this army. So All right. Well, why don't we switch a little bit back to competitive play? We still got some time here. We're only at 40 minutes. So
Okay, cool.
you still got some time?
Yep.
Sweet. Well, so Pariah Nexus, you said you haven't played any Pariah Nexus.
Nope.
Plan on too soon here, or just you're going to go raw dog into the tournament? Or
You know what? I was messaging my 2 teammates this morning, and they were asking about Pariah Nexus experience. And I was like, yep, got none.
Okay.
And they're like, are you going to have some before the tournament? And I was like, hope so, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Definitely reading into the missions or rules and trying to learn. Hopefully this week I'll have some time to get a game or two under my belt. I'm also in the middle of finishing another model for charity that I committed myself to, so I got to get it done before the end of the month and need some painting time. So we'll see if I got the opportunity to play some Pariah Nexus this week before the tournament. If not, you know what?
Just go for it.
Just go for it. Like when I was playing in the Trident team tournament, we were trying to decide, who should we throw Chaos Space Marines into? Who do I feel comfortable playing? And all tournament, I was saying, throw me whoever. Yeah. I'm here to have fun. I want to play. You guys, you pick my matchup. I don't care who I play against. And, it worked out well. I 20-0'd my first 3 opponents. And then I think I 19-1'd my last opponent. And had an 11-9. But, I'm here to roll dice and have fun. And, I think Pariah Nexus, pretty similar to Leviathan, a couple of nuances and things that are changing, but I think I should be all right.
Yeah, some of the biggest things are actions, right? Like Nurglings aren't going to be as good anymore with OC0. They can't do actions. You can't assault in action. You can't fall back in action. You can't fall back in grenade.
Yeah.
You can't advance grenade. Like things like that are kind of that really put a lot of play into my death guard. But in terms of the assault, you still got is it Renegade Raiders for the Chaos Space Marines? They all assault? Yeah, so there you go. But that you can't assault in action, but you can assault shoot. You can kind of do some other stuff too, right? So my experience so far, I played 3 games. 3 games. So I went against Grey Knights twice and Admech. So I'm 2-1. The last one, I think it was 11-9. And it was deploy server skulls. We both didn't want to play it, but we're like, no, new meta, new thing. Whatever mission we draw, that's what we're playing. And it was kind of interesting because the opponent was Grey Knights, and he's such a good player, but he only had a 5-inch move on his guy, so he couldn't actually get there in action on the deploy.
Oh yeah.
But going first is such a huge advantage in that one. I think it's an 80% win rate for that, because you can just move up to your objectives and then push them there, and then we're just we're going like this, and I can't get them anymore. So I made a misplay too at I think round 4. I wasn't being aggressive enough with my Triumph, and I couldn't get and move it up. So it was 11-9. So I think he beat me by 7 points. But I was playing the Army of Faith. So that's the detachment, again, I was telling you before, where you use 2 miracle dice and you kind of use a lot of shenanigans with jumper packs and stuff.
Yep.
I found the new Sisters Codex very, very powerful. I think the point changes were a must. If they didn't happen, it'd only be Sisters.
Oh, yeah.
So I think they've kind of leveled out the playing field a little bit with them, but any experienced player will probably dominate the field with it just because of how good their rules are. Morvenval is almost the same but better,
Yeah, she's a must take.
100%. I think after a play, I don't think I'd run a list without her now.
Yeah,
I think I would cut Triumph before her, and Triumph is kind of a must take too. With Triumphs, you get a free miracle dice every battle round, and it's always a 6. You get extra movement with them. You can get feel no pains. You can do the 2 miracle dice if you wanted to, but you wouldn't in that detachment.
You select something. You select one of those with her.
2
right?
of 6.
Yeah,
there's 6 choices.
That's wild.
And you select 2 of 6. The movement one is clearly the best one. You get +2 to your movement, +1 to advance, +1 to charge.
Yeah.
So very, very cool stuff. I also played Penitent Host as well against Grey Knights, and I did end up taking that one. I think I only won by 12 points, but I'm playing Sisters, so I'm never going to 20-0 anybody.
Yeah.
Right? It's always going to be close games and just how long can my 5 rounds last and my endurance in my head, right? So,
totally.
But I found that Repentia are insane. I think you don't run more than 2. I wanted a third one in that matchup, but I think he had a list that was. He ran Dreadnoughts, so it wasn't like a crazy it was a mistake for sure on his part. So I think I'd want Repentia for that list. But in a meta, I think you go a little bit more battle line and less Nemesis Dread Knights and kind of anyways. But I found Arcoflagellum still good.
Nice.
I found the Zephyrim and Seraphim point increases were quite large, but they're still very good. Considering that advance and action's gone, I moved 12. Who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Right? So hoping these are the things that I learned so far in Pariah Nexus, and scoring secondaries are very, very tight, but very, very doable for sisters. They play tactical quite well. I haven't done the best attachment yet, which is called Bringer of Flame, or supposedly the best one.
It
in all the
increases
terms,
the strength of your weapons, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Bolters are like 5s now, and Meltas are 10.
Meltas are 10.
That's wild.
And they're all assault.
That's crazy.
Right?
It's so strong.
So it's so good. And
that 10 strength is such a tipping point as well in the game. That increases your chance for wounding substantially for a lot of units you're playing against.
Oh, 100%. And you can also do advanced charge for 1 unit, right? So, or is that the Penitent Host? Don't quote me on this. I can't remember. I haven't played the Bringer of Flame. I know that, in the Sisters Discord and everyone else is playing a lot of the Bringer of Flame. I've been choosing not to. I've been going around it. Not because I don't think it's good. It's because I know it's good. And I want to find the nuances in this book because it's such a deep book.
Yeah.
Is my whole goal with this. So I'm really going to try to focus on Penitent and Army of Faith. Ultimately, though, and this might be a hot take, but I do think the Haloed Martyrs Index one is still the best one.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's just the strategy is so good.
Bad Ben's not here. Hot take
alert. So that's been my experience with Pariah Nexus so far. With when it comes to Death Guard, I'm leaning towards no Plague Burst Crawlers. I think the community is still playing them just because the indirect rule kind of sucks.
That indirect rule is a massive change.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Oh, sorry. It's not working. Oh, there it is. There you go. Yeah, it's a massive change. And 180 points. Do you still take them? I know they're really tough, they're Lehman Russes, but I don't know.
Yeah, I know from playing previously to Pariah against your Death Guard, I couldn't stand Plague Burst Crawlers. Their indirect would it would force me to engage with you in a way that I didn't like. But now with the rules change and how much more difficult it is for them to actually hit meaningfully, I totally agree. It probably makes more sense to look at what else you can take. And are you taking Predators or?
Yeah, I was thinking doing no Plague Burst Crawlers and just doing 3 Predator tanks now. I know I had 3 Plague Burst Crawlers and 2 Predator tanks on my list, but now if I just go to 3 Predator tanks, they're a little weaker, obviously. They have range, which is nice at 48 inches, and I could still run Materian and be a little bit more aggressive with them. I could still ignore mods with them. If you're doing -1 hit or pop and smoke or anything like that. And they're only 140 points. So essentially I get 120 extra points now if I do that to kind of mess around with. And that's another Death Shroud squad. Maybe that's Blight Lords because Blight Lords went down. Maybe it's another elite unit. Maybe it's more Plague Marines. But I also think Plague Marines got a little worse due to the grenade strat.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't do that multiple times now.
Yeah.
Which is some of their power. Because they are quite shooty. They are resilient, but,
Yeah.
I think bloat drones are probably kind of where I want to be as well. Maybe a little bit more bloat drones. I don't like the Blight Haulers, those little fucking... They have a multi-melta and they'll...
Oh, yeah.
They kind of zoom up. I just never liked them.
Yeah.
But I know they're good. And maybe I go Poxwalkers. Maybe I bring those back in.
Yep. Play around. See what you enjoy playing, right? And that's... Since I started playing competitive, there is... in our group, there's been a lot of talk about what the meta is and people running the meta. And I understand that and get that people are winning tournaments with a meta, but sometimes I just can't stand playing the meta. I want to find my own way and mess around. I'm very much the rule of cool and let's take stuff that I enjoy playing and see how it runs. In that, again, that Trident team tournament prior to Pariah Nexus, I was running 10 Terminators with Abaddon, and I gave them all, what was it, combi bolters?
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, well, what are you doing? Why aren't you using combi weapons? I was like, well, because I can give them lethal hits on 5s and 6s with Abaddon, and then just dump a bunch of 0 AP shots.
Chip damage.
Yeah. And they're like, well, is that really worth it? And I'm like, well, I'm smoking a bunch of rhinos and other stuff because
the smaller vehicles.
Exactly. I'm smoking the smaller vehicles and taking stuff off the board, and then they're forced to come deal with Abaddon and 10 Terminators where I can bring one back every turn. So it wasn't meta, but it was working.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, that's kind of what I'm looking at lists in the future as well. So with the list next weekend, I'm going to be running a Telemon Heavy Dreadnought purely because its points have come down, and I'm like, the model is fucking badass.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of people are running Redemptor Dreadnoughts, and it's just a better Redemptor Dreadnought. It's got a 2-up, 4-up, -1 damage, and it's got some solid melee. It's got some alright shooting on it. Let's run it. Let's see how it plays.
Mm-hmm. See, I like that too. And that's exactly what champions and winners do at tournaments. They don't run the meta. They run something that's a little off, because then people can't predict it, right? So it's like, if I just run a super just straight meta list, you're gonna know. Like, if I run my typical Death Guard, like my Death Guard lists were pretty meta, but it wasn't always that. Like, I ran Rodriguez, right, and that was my way of counteracting the current meta of a bunch of Catans and a bunch of Race and a bunch of Bully Boys. And I won every single match of those, right? And that, not due to Rodriguez, but like, it offset the game, right? It's 220 points that are just sitting there, like, coming at your face.
Exactly.
Like, and that's something, and it's also real cool. Like, I'm running this big ass Greater Demon. Right. And my whole objective with that was because I wanted another toughness 12 model. And also with the Rise of Tau and Breachers, I wanted that toughness 12 model, because then they have to wound on 6s. If I had an 11, then they're wounding on 5s, and they're rerolling everything. So that was the idea with Rodriguez. So thinking about like these niche moves was key to winning a tournament, I think. So having that 10-man combi bolter.
Yeah, exactly. You know, playing in the Gamescon narrative as well, like, that orc list has a Stompa. Not many people run Stompas. It's kind of one of those, hey, you know what, it's fun to see on the board. You know, it definitely was. Everyone was coming up asking for it to roar and stuff like that. But like, Stompas are friggin' nightmare to deal with. They got 30 wounds, toughness 14, 2-up save, 6-up invul, and during the wall it's a 5-up. And if you have any part of that model behind terrain, it's got cover. And, you know, like, throw a mech on it, and then all of a sudden it's healing, and people are saying orc shooting is terrible. Well, that thing is hitting on 4s with a strength 12 or a strength 14 weapon. With blast, you're destroying tons of stuff. Like, I've destroyed a predator in turn 1 with Stompa shooting from one of its guns. Right? And so, you know, how many people are playing Stompas in competitive? I don't think anybody is, unless they're running Dread Mob or Dread Mech or whatever it's called. But like, there is some playability there. Like, you have to come deal with that. And if you pack it full of boys or other units, then, you know, that's a nightmare to deal with.
What do you think is better, Stompa or Squiggoth? Because they're kind of the same realm.
You know, I actually don't know the points for a Squiggoth.
But I think it's 2 at Play On Tournament.
Oh yeah?
2.
Jeez.
Not in the same list. It's like two different people.
Well, I don't know. I love my Stompa. I think the Rancor Stompa is probably one of the coolest models I've ever seen, so I'd love to run that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's always hilarious when you get like, when people see it shooting, they're like, oh wow, that's actually better than I thought. And so then they come charge it. I had one guy in the tournament drop down a 10-man Terminator squad 3 inches away from the Stompa to try to take my home objective, and then I basically just charged him with the Stompa, and I'm like, okay, I got 19 attacks because it's in the WA. And he's like, all right. And I'm like, this is, I think it was strength 11 during the WA. And damage 3, AP 2 or 3. He's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, every one of these failed is a dead Terminator. And he's like, holy crap. So, or you do it strike profile, which is damage 10, and it's like it's gonna nuke almost anything that is getting in melee with. So again,
you don't want to do that on a 4-up invul though. Like the amount of attacks. How many attacks is it?
18, 19
on strike or damage 10.
Oh, on that one, that's damage or 6 attacks.
Yeah.
So
you
during
wouldn't
the
want to do
WoW,
that to Terminator though.
So not into Terminators.
No.
You use the sweep because it's damage 3.
Yeah.
But other stuff like, again, Predators or Land Raiders or anything else, you're doing your strike profile.
What do you mean I failed? What do you mean it's dead?
Yeah,
I only failed one.
Yeah, exactly. You that happened to you when you're playing with your Rhino.
Shocked. I was shocked. Like, what are you talking about? Oh God. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think having, this is a game. It's a game of dice. It's a game for fun. And, it's one thing to be doing all the reading online and listening to videos about what the meta is and what's winning. But also I think there's more pride in, at least for me, when I'm playing, I'm like, I'm going to run this list and this is what I want to play. And I think it has playability and see what happens. And if I'm winning, it's like, well, fucking A, because I built this and I didn't just follow a meta online and I've actually been able to hold my own. Mm-hmm. I have more pride in winning because I'm like, hey, you know what? This came from me.
Oh, for sure. Like it feels so good. Like this is my tech, right? And I don't know. So I went and then Broder Classic. I went 4-2, and I felt pretty good about that. I lost to the 2 top seed players, which they're better players than me. That's fine, and like they're really really good. But I felt so good about my Rodigus tech, and I felt like it was implemented the way I wanted it to, and I got the matchups I wanted. And it worked that way, so it felt good. So I know exactly the feeling you're talking about. And, I'm going to try to do that with Sisters as well, and be off a little bit, and we'll see, because we got a potential teams tournament up in August as well in Edmonton. So what's your feelings on that?
Well, if everything goes according to plan, so again, summer's a busy time and lots and lots of different commitments. That tournament is a weekend before I leave for Play on Tabletop. And my wife is like, man, you're busy almost every weekend. We got camping, we got this and that. We got people visiting from other countries. And so she may be going on holiday and taking the kids. And if that happens, then I'll be free to come play in that tournament.
Sweet.
If not, then we're going to have to find another teammate.
Yeah.
But looking forward to it. Again, like I'm really digging these competitive teams tournaments because I think that for somebody just getting into a competitive scene, for me, it almost takes some of the pressure off because I got a team that I can rely on. I know that the boys I'm playing with are fantastic players and I can chat with them about tactics and what the plan is. And yes, there is some trust and responsibility put on my shoulders that I'm going to be playing my game well, but at the same time, like if I don't, that's okay. You know what, Mark, like we did all right. Person A and person B played well, and so we'll get them next round, right? And so there's that camaraderie and that team aspect that takes off some of the stress of making sure that you perform well all the time.
Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, we're there to playing
Toy soldiers, man. Right?
That's all I gotta say. We're playing Toy Soldiers. We're having a good time.
Exactly.
I think so. We're at an hour now. I think that kind of wraps up everything I wanted to chat about. Did you want to mention anything else, or do you have any questions for your host here?
Or you know what? I don't at the moment. Like I've just thoroughly enjoyed hanging out, chatting, and we got lots of fun Warhammer stuff coming up with tournaments and. I'm always keeping you in the loop with some of my plans. So. Oh yeah, no, I know, and I'm excited for some of them. And we got potentially LVO, or I know you're gonna go, but I'm at a potential right now, so I'm aiming for that as well, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. And hey guys, if you're watching, you wanna, like I say, please put in the comments or no if you want to have any questions. I'll answer as fast as I can, or if you want to see a faction focus or you want to see certain things. I know we keep teasing the battle reports. We are trying. Like I said, it is Calgary Stampede right now, and we do we do what we can. Like even right now, we're cutting it a little shorter than normal. Usually our episodes an hour and 20. But Mark has to go to a Stampede event. In Calgary, it's like
it's the networking time. Like you got to go out, you got to show face, you got to do your thing for your professional careers too, right? Because we not only do we play Warhammer, we also have professional careers as well. So.
Exactly. Well, I do have one question for you, Cass.
Yeah.
So this year was Star Wars Orcs for the Charity Army, and it was so well received that definitely looking at potentially doing this again next year. What kind of army crossover would you like to see as a potential charity army?
So I would like to see a Votan army, just as the bare bones, but Nintendo Super Mario themed.
Okay.
Right? So I was thinking like the Koopa Warriors as your regular shooty guys. You got Bowser's as like the Hearthkin. The Mario Karts are your Sagittars, and like maybe a big Land Fortress could be like one of the big like Donkey Kong one that he rode.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what else because I don't know the army that well. Oh, and then more Mario Kart guys because they have the little biker dudes.
Yeah.
So I would say like little Mario Luigi's kind of running around there too, and that like that's what I kind of envisioned. So
cool.
That'd be really really cool to see and kid friendly.
Hey, that's true.
You?
You know what? I got some ideas floating around, but I'm kind of thinking about. I watched your podcast last week, and I like the idea of Autobot Decepticon army, and I was thinking that'd be perfect for a Knights army. I was thinking of actually doing Fish Tao. Sorry, Nick. If he's watching this,
you can call it Fish Cow, not Fish Tao.
Yeah, Fish Cow. Yeah, the tuna, the Tao.
Yeah, the tuna cans.
Yeah, there's lots of ideas floating around, but I'd love to know what other people think and if they like the Orcs army and have some ideas of their own. Then maybe they could post in the comments. We could have a look and keep the army next year a bit of a surprise. Yeah, and then inspire us and say, hey, the winner is this, and that's kind of cool. Yeah, well, please do, guys. And of course, if you like our content, you want to keep us going here. It does keep us going. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for everyone who has so far. It's been amazingly received in the comments, and I hope you're learning some Warhammer stuff. And like we make a lot of mistakes. I know I make a lot of mistakes when it comes to Warhammer. So I like to make that for you, so you don't have to do it in the future. And I can talk about my dumbass mistakes in competitive play. As always, guys, thank you for coming on, and please like, subscribe, and well, Ben's not here, but what does he always say? Smash that like button. No, the notification. No,
smash that notification button. Yeah, and have a good day, guys. Thanks.